¿Sabías que hay un error que cometen muchísimos estudiantes de inglés, incluso con nivel avanzado? Y lo peor es que lo hacen porque traducen directamente del español. Pues hoy vamos a solucionar ese error para que tu inglés suene mucho más natural. So, hello everyone, and welcome to another English masterclass with me, English Chris. Today's lesson is all about two small words that cause a lot of confusion: make and do. So, by the end of this lesson, you'll know exactly when to use each one, and you'll avoid one of the most common mistakes Spanish speakers make. So, let's get started. Let's start with some typical mistakes. Many students say, I did a mistake, or I made my homework, or even sometimes I did a cake. Now, if you're a Spanish speaker, these mistakes probably look quite logical. After all, in Spanish, you use the verb hacer in all of these situations. But in English, we don't. That's why these sentences sound unnatural to native speakers. The correct versions would be not I did a mistake, but I made a mistake. Or I did my homework, I made a cake. So, what's the difference between do and make? Well, in general, we use do for activities, tasks, and actions, and we use make when something is created, produced, or becomes the result of an action. Think about it this way: do activity, make result. If you're focused on the activity itself, we usually use do. But if you're focused on the results, we usually use make. Now, this isn't a perfect rule for every single expression in English, but it is a very useful way to think about these two verbs, do and make. So let's see how it works. For example, when I say I do my homework, the focus is on the activity. I'm talking about the task itself. But when I say I make a cake, the focus is on the result. At the end of the process, the end of the action, there is a cake. So the same thing happens with I made a mistake. A mistake is the result of an action. It didn't exist before the action. And that's why we use make and not do. So, aquí hay un truco muy útil para hispanohablantes, perdón. En español se usa el verbo hacer para muchísimas cosas: hacer ejercicio, hacer los deberes, hacer un pastel, cometer o hacer un error. Pero en inglés ese verbo se divide en dos ideas diferentes. Ya, la forma más fácil de entenderlo es esta: si te estás enfocando en la actividad en sí, normalmente usamos do. Pero si te estás enfocando en el resultado de esa actividad, normalmente usamos make. Por ejemplo, I do my homework. Aquí lo importante es la actividad, hacer los deberes. Pero si digo I make a cake, lo importante es el resultado final, el pastel. Por eso decimos I do exercise, porque nos enfocamos en la actividad. Pero I make a mistake porque el error es el resultado de una acción. Así que, como mencioné antes en inglés, no es una regla perfecta para el 100% de los casos, pero es una forma muy útil de pensar en make y do, especialmente si tu idioma nativo es el español y usas hacer. So let's finish with some common examples. I do my homework, I do exercise, I do the housework, I do the shopping, I do my job. In all of these examples, we're focusing on an activity or a task. Whereas I make a cake, I make money, I make a decision, I make friends, I make a mistake. In these examples, we're talking about a result, something that is produced or created. So the more you see these expressions, the more natural they will become, I promise you. So let's recap one last time. In general, we use do for activities, tasks, and actions, and we use make for results, creations, and things that are produced. So always remember this simple question. Am I focusing on the activity, do, or am I focusing on the result, make? So if it's the activity, it's do. If it's the result, it's make. And if you can only remember one sentence from today's lesson, hopefully you can remember more. But if you can only remember one, it's I made a mistake and I do exercise. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next English masterclass. If you enjoyed this and you learned something new, please give a like and subscribe. So thank you very much, guys. See you soon.